of a coincidental volcano made Pharaoh think that the Lord of the Hebrews was not behind the plagues. Timing of the volcano in the mid-17th century BCE fits perfectly in the downfall of the 12th dynasty of Egypt. It precedes the Hyksos invasion into Lower Egypt by only a few decades. The downfall of Egypt made it ripe for the Hyksos to invade. The Hyksos invasion was at the start of the 13th and 14th dynasties in Egypt. The 13th and 14th dynasties moved into the Second Intermediate Period, a dark age for Egypt. However, these years could have easily overlapped with the Exodus. As we mentioned before, the Egyptian timeline is concurrent, not consecutive. This period was preceded by the 12th dynasty, a period of great wealth and expansion of Egypt that ended quite suddenly and mysteriously. This also fits with the start of the New Kingdom. They may have overlapped. The main seat of the pharaoh was moved to Thebes in Upper Egypt. However, the Torah tells us how Moses and Aaron talked to Pharaoh near Goshen in Lower Egypt. The pharaoh of this dynasty, Pharaoh Amenemhat I, moved the capital from Thebes, Upper Egypt, to Itzjui, which is thought to be a suburb of Cairo in Lower Egypt. Thus, the king of Egypt would sit next to Pharaoh. This indicates he moved his seat to be closer to Goshen to deal with Moses and the Hebrew problem. When Moses returns, he first talks to the king of Egypt. Then he addresses Pharaoh right away. He leaves Pharaoh and the people already know what occurred. They must have been right near Goshen. The 10th plague killed Pharaoh's son, and presumably his heir. The pharaohs in the late 12th dynasty did not give their throne to the sons. Specifically, the first pharaoh of the 13th dynasty were brothers and they were co-regents, and they took the throne in turn. Further, Thutmose III of the 18th dynasty did not give over to his heir either, but to a regent. In fact, his first son actually predeceased him. Another possibility is Pharaoh Akhenaten, the 10th ruler of the 18th dynasty in the year 1351 to 1334, 480 years prior to the year 970, which is the year that King Solomon, Shlomo Melech, taken king. Only being 100 years off in Egyptian history is actually very close. Prior to the reign, Egypt built itself up again and expanded its territory and might from its fall during the Second Intermediate Period. There were also slaves in northern territory near Goshen. During his 17-year reign, Pharaoh Akhenaten threw off the idea of polytheism and instead went with monotheism, to serve only the god Aten, something Pharaoh would have done after being defeated by the god of the Hebrews at the Red Sea. He is also a pharaoh that was erased from much of Egyptian history and only discovered later when his temple of Aten was discovered. The later pharaohs did not succeed him, and they worked on discrediting him and calling him mad and a heretic. This treatment corroborates that his reign was a significant failure, possibly because of his allowing a foreign god to defeat him and destroy Egypt and lose all the slaves on the lower land. There is also evidence that he was co-regent with his father for several years. The later years of his reign were not recorded. He also was not succeeded by a son, but by his son-in-law. Then after, the rest of the 18th dynasty pharaohs were not related at all but established a new line. This is evidence of the great upheaval during his reign. 7 centuries later, Becheneref, known as Sais, was pharaoh. He could have been the pharaoh So, as mentioned in Kings 2:17, verse 4. Pharaoh Necho, who ruled 610 to 595 BCE, he said to the Torah to have killed King Yoshia and Megiddo in Kings 2:23, verse 29. Their pharaoh was called Necho. Pharaoh Necho ruled from Sais, so it could be that why Pharaoh was called Sais earlier. Looking back to Thutmose II, though, he fits best. He ruled for 20 years from 1492 to 1472 BCE. He had a lot of history erased also. He seemed to have put Egypt in ruins, and he was not succeeded by his eldest son, who had predeceased him. He was succeeded by a son from his second wife. He actually was succeeded by his wife as co-regent first. All this indicates a pharaoh struck by plagues and controversy, and who lost his son to the plague of the death of the firstborn. He may have continued to rule after the Exodus, and it was 1492 when all those who wanted Moses dead, Thutmose I, died. We don't know exactly which pharaoh was the pharaoh of the enslavement or the one that suffered the Exodus. However, our careful reading of the Torah and looking at the evidence has certainly pointed us in the right direction.